Hi everybody, I'm going to answer a question on the platform that was such a good question I figured that I would answer it by video. It was a question asked by Milan and it was about planting everything all at once versus the way I'm doing it. And it's a great question because that's how we're taught in the basic syntropy courses. We're taught to plant everything at once. And while that's good and it's really instructional for how successional agriculture works, it's super important to understand. It really makes it click how it works when you plant everything at once, because it's explained to you why. But when you plant everything at once, you're going to be planting high succession species. You're going to be planting eucalyptus or poplar or whatever it is. You're going to be planting your fruit tree seedlings, things like that. But you need fertilizer. You can't plant a fruit tree seedling in poor conditions, in zero conditions, without fertilizer. So what do you do in a situation like mine where we're not using fertilizer? We use an accumulation strategy. I call it strategic accumulation, or deep accumulation is another word I use. We'll find one, we'll settle on one of them. But at any rate, I'll explain it. Well, let's start with nature. In a situation where species succession occurs naturally, and if you're starting from zero, if Mother Nature is starting from zero, then there's no fertilizer. You're just simply not going to get high succession plants straight away. The only way you can do that is with fertilizer. So in nature, it's not necessarily always planted at once. It can't. It has to accumulate. The fertility has to accumulate so those high succession plants can live. And you see it everywhere. The better you get at looking at nature through the prism of syntropic farming, the more you'll understand it and recognise that the teacher is all around us, everywhere, all of the time, particularly the roadsides. So, and railway tracks and places like that. Vacant blocks, you know it. So we're going to have an invasion of weeds. That's the first thing that happens. And so hence, all of my tree rows are accumulating with weeds, pigeon pea. They're playing the role of a weed infestation. It's accumulating and creating conditions for higher life. But the higher life can't get there yet because this stuff has to do its work. This is the fertilizer. So once we get into more advanced syntropy, more advanced styles of planting, particularly ones that suit our context, like mine, 10 acres here, I'm not going to fertilise it. I don't have to. So we need these great plants, like all of this pigeon pea here. Beautiful. We need them to fully cycle and consolidate before any higher life can exist there. It's just natural succession. Now, I'll add another thing. Seeds. We're often taught, and I've taught this, and it's in the online course. Because the online course that I've got is just the same material, plus new observations that I've cross-checked with other agroforesters, experts. We've come to the same conclusions, particularly things like disturbance placenta and new things like that we've all observed and agree upon. But basically it's the same course you've taught in Brazil, or if the experts come over from Brazil to Australia or America or wherever, whatever, that's what you get on our platform. And it's important to understand that, but it's important to move past it. So the seeds we're always told to plant it once. And I've done it. I did it. Gosh, I did it with Revel. Revel and I did it over on the first row we fully planted out. But we've got to understand something about seeds. You've got lower succession seeds and higher succession seeds. A lot of seeds, they will stay dormant in the ground and will germinate later on, much later on. And that's a really important function that nature, it's a part of the versatility and the beauty, the high function of an ecosystem. But there are other seeds that will germinate and start to grow, albeit slowly, but then they will pick up once there's a disturbance cycle and they take their role in succession. And then there's another type of seed, which is the high succession trees. They will, well look, as we all know, as most of us know, a lot of these high succession trees, the seeds, they don't last, they only can be planted fresh. And with that, you plant them in, well look, let's take a step back. The way they naturally work is they fall down from the mother tree or from the birds, and they hit the ground, and then they will germinate, because a lot of those trees will drop the seed on the rainy season, and they will germinate and they will grow to a seedling, and they'll stay there, and they can stay there for years waiting until disturbance comes, and then they grow, and then the forest can become senescent again, and then they'll go dormant, and the stratification will stay lower too, until another disturbance cycle, and they'll grow again, and until they become mature. And quite often this stratification will change until they become an emergent, but I don't want to conflate stratification too much into this. I just thought I'd add it. Now those seeds, they don't survive in low succession conditions. If we come along and plant them in our system, in an accumulation system like this, they will germinate and then they will die. They just can't be, there's just not enough life. It's not high enough succession for them. The conditions don't suit them. So that's another reason why it doesn't pay in an accumulation system to plant everything at once. We have to accumulate. If you put heaps of fertiliser in and plant all of the seeds, you'll probably be fine with those higher succession seeds, but I actually have seen a lot of them die there too. So, let's have a look at nature again. There's two causes, two reasons that creates this seed dispersal of high succession trees. And that is, the mother tree is close by and her offspring will be spread everywhere when she drops the seeds. And the other one is the birds. It's really well known that the birds are the big spreaders of seeds. But around me is hardly the conditions for birds. So there's your parallels, the references in nature. The birds don't come until the trees are there. And when the trees are there, it's higher life. And then when it's higher life, they'll drop the seeds through their gut and excrete them. And then the seeds will germinate. And we know a lot of those seeds won't germinate unless they've been through the gut of a bird. So there's no point in me now going through and planting higher succession trees right through here until I've got at least something for birds to roost in, and that's my reference for a high enough succession. So I'll go and put the seeds, those higher succession seeds, in like white beech and rosewood and all of those things. I'll put them all in when there's some trees around, because that's when we've got the conditions to suit. So that's the difference between your standard course. It's when the manure is added, the fertiliser's there, and we can plant just about everything. If you're doing an accumulation system, It's simple. We just have to accumulate first. It's that simple and that easy. Please ask plenty of questions.